Well, it seems the rest of the country is experiencing what we've come to expect in Oklahoma every summer. Multiple days of 100-plus temperatures and heat and ozone advisories common. The Sooner State sizzles in July and August, and this year is no different. So how are we coping? Here's moderator Reese Wetzel with this week's In-Depth conversation.
Thank you, Rich. And today we will be discussing the intense heat wave that is currently impacting Oklahoma. Joining us to do that, we have Gary McManus, state climatologist with the Oklahoma Climate Survey, and Brett Smith, paramedic and clinical service specialist with IMSA. Thank you both for joining us.
You bet.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I just want to start off by saying it's hot outside. I think everyone can realize that when they walk outside. Gary, when you look at this at the metro, it's starting to pick up and it's starting to really ramp up in this heat wave. But Southwest Oklahoma has kind of been in this heat wave from most of the summer. What's differing when you look at the state?
Right, so Southwest Oklahoma has really been under the influence of that heat dome that we've seen over the southern plains that Texas has been getting blasted by. So Texas almost all summer has been getting triple-digit temperatures. Southwest Oklahoma just close enough to that heat dome down there to the southwest of the city to be impacted by that. So they're getting many more triple-digit temperatures than we are.
I know when I looked earlier this week, they were at like 20 compared to Oklahoma City being at 2 or 3. So.
Right, so almost 30 days now above 100 degrees down in Southwest Oklahoma. Now, of course, we have in this part of the state, we are starting to see more and more of those triple-digit temperatures. But the heat index, though, you know, regardless of the air temperature, has been up there in triple digits a lot this summer.
Yeah. And Brett, when we look at this heat and people being outside, IMSA issues heat alerts. What are those and when do those get issued?
So heat alerts get issued when we have 5 or more heat-related calls within a 24-hour period. It will be issued at that point. Those remain in place until one of two things happen. Either the temperatures come down significantly outside or we have a significant decrease in the number of those heat-related calls.
Have the heat-related calls been picking up this week?
They have been picking up. Typically, July and August are our busiest months, and so we expect an uptick, so it's not uncommon this time of year.
And when you respond to those calls, I mean, what's important? How fast does someone have when they start to feel heat-related illness symptoms to get called and get checked on?
It's important to get inside as soon as possible to get cooled down, to get hydrated quickly, and to always call. It's always best to call and be checked out by a medical professional than to wait and chance it. If you need to be transported, we have the ability to do that.
Okay. Gary, we're in August now, which is Oklahoma's hottest month. What is the data saying about this month? I know that we're going to get some cooler days next week, but is that going to last?
It's hard to say if it will last very long. Now, when we look at the August outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, they see increased odds of above normal temperatures. Doesn't say how high those temperatures will be, but if they're above normal, especially in that first half of August, it will be extremely hot in Oklahoma.
And we were talking before about how weird Oklahoma can be with the weather. Is this summer abnormal, or is it kind of following a trend of usual summers?
Well, again, it depends on where you are. If you're in Southwest Oklahoma, not so unusual because they're always hot down there. They get 30 to 40 days above 100 degrees. But if you look at the rest of the state, basically, you know, from May forward, we've had an unusual wet and mild period through much of the panhandle down through central Oklahoma, west central Oklahoma. Top 10 wettest summers on record so far for those areas. We've had 10 to 15 to 20 inches of rain across west Oklahoma, which they sometimes don't get that in a year. So, and very cool temperatures during that time, a mild summer for those folks. Just now, though, we're starting to enter the heat, so that's how it's been unusual, a very late start to the summer for many of us.
Okay. And Brett, what are some recommendations that IMSA offers if someone's just starting to experience heat-related illness?
Well, first and foremost, like I said, get inside, get some cool water, call 911 if you feel the need to. As far as being prepared when you do go outside, you want to make sure first and foremost that you take breaks if you have to be outside. Come inside, sit in front of a fan and air conditioner, get some cold water. Secondly is hydration. Hydrate before you go out. Stay hydrated while you're outside. Hydrate when you come back inside. As far as clothing goes, you want to cover as much of your body as you can. You're looking for clothing that's light, cotton-based that will wick the sweat away from your body, also light-colored. If you have it available, use sunscreen to protect your skin. And then we also recommend, if you're going to be doing outside activities, try to do them and plan ahead for the morning hours or late at night when the air temperatures are much cooler.
Well, Gary, he said early in the morning and late at night when those air temperatures are much cooler, but they're still relatively hot, right?
Right. One of the problems we see is it doesn't get cool enough at night for people to relieve that heat at times. So, last night we had temperatures in Oklahoma City overnight that remained in the 80s, so it's very difficult to relieve that heat stress when the temperatures are that high, especially at this time of year when the sunlight's out longer too.
And those temperatures not cooling can have impacts on livestock, on everything, correct?
Right. When we see those large cattle die-offs at times, especially out in western Oklahoma, it's when those temperatures don't get down far enough. We get the still air, we don't get much wind, and that's when it's very tough on the cattle and other livestock.
Yeah. And Brett, on average, how many heat alerts does IMSA issue a year?
On average, we see between 4 and 7 a year between our two divisions. So far in 2023, we've had 2 in the Western Division here in Oklahoma City and 3 in our Eastern Division in Tulsa.
So that number is creeping up towards the average?
Correct.
All right. And do you anticipate it to go over the average?
We anticipate it to be around where it usually is. We don't see any particular uptick outside of what we normally see this time of year.
All right. And Brett, we mentioned earlier about the heat indexes. Pauls Valley recently broke a 30-year record, 126 degrees out of heat index. I mean, that is insane. What is causing that?
Right. So, of course, we had all that rainfall earlier this summer. So that added the moisture to the air when it evaporates, but we also had some flow from the Gulf of Mexico up this way. It got our dew point temperatures up in the low 80s to the mid 80s even. So very high dew point temperatures combined with the heat that set in produced that heat index of 126. But we've had heat index values in July and later in June of 115 to 125. So it's not something uncommon this summer. It's been short but violent bursts of heat this year.
Yeah, I mean, in short and violent bursts, has Oklahoma seen summers like that? I know a couple, maybe, 10, 12 years ago, we had that summer where we had record-breaking heat across the state. Is this something that might trend into August?
Sure. We should expect to see this type of heat as we get further into August. We'll get that cool down, as you mentioned, but you're talking about the 2011 summer. That ended up being the hottest summer for any state for, the history of the United States. Right here in Oklahoma, that June through August period was the hottest on record. And last year, our summer was the hottest since 2011. So our summers do vary, but we have had some extreme summers recently.
So Oklahoma doesn't necessarily have a pattern that follows. You see some things that say, this is not the new normal, this is abnormal. Is this just Oklahoma, or is this due to external reasons?
Well, I would say Oklahoma's summers are normally hot. It's just how hot are they going to get? So, we have seen a little bit of a burst of extreme heat last year, 2011, 2012. But generally our summers have remained pretty normally chaotic, I guess you could say. They're always hot.
Chaotic.
They're just what degree of hot, but they haven't, other than that 2011, they haven't been too unusual lately.
And this summer compared to 2011, we're not even close, correct?
No, this is nothing like 2000. It's not even like last year. Last year, we had 30 to 50 to 60 days above 100 degrees across the state. This year, hardly that at all.
Okay. And Brett, if someone's outside working or they're outside just doing activities and they start to feel those heat-related illnesses, what is the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke?
So when we're talking about heat exhaustion and heat stroke, they both fall under the category of heat-related illness. We'll start with the more mild version, which is heat exhaustion. You'll start to have symptoms like dizziness, lightheadedness. Some people will get headaches, muscle cramps along the body. Some people will even have nausea and vomiting along with it. But the important thing to note with heat exhaustion is you'll still be sweating. Your body's still producing that moisture to cool you down. Now, the more severe form of it, the heat stroke, is when we no longer have the ability to produce sweat. You'll have symptoms like altered mental status, confusion. Some people can even have seizure-like activity. So at that point, it's obviously time to call 911.
And how long does someone have before it's too late to call 911?
The sooner the better. The sooner we can cool them down, the better. The less chance that we have of brain damage and damage to the body.
So it can have great impacts on the human body, correct?
Absolutely.
What are some other impacts besides just the ones that you listed?
So when you're out in the heat, it does dilate your blood vessels. It can obviously lower your blood pressure, along with the fact that you're losing sweat, you're losing water volume from your body, as well as electrolytes. Those electrolytes can, they have a big role in your cardiac function, the way that your heart beats. So you can have cardiac dysfunction depending on the severity. It can be fatal.
Okay. And Gary, we recently did a story about flash droughts, and we had a lot of these flash flood rains and a lot of rain this summer. Is this heat going to cancel that out by a flash drought?
If it continues this way, we will see, drought conditions start to return. We've already seen in southeastern Oklahoma abnormally dry conditions start to fester. And if that continues for a week or two without more rainfall in this type of heat, the evaporation takes over. We start to lose those farm ponds and things like that. So we will see that flash drought start to come back. Hopefully it doesn't occur, but it's hard to say just what the precipitation outlook's going to be. But where that drought is already flourishing, that's an area where the intense heat's already doing damage, though.
How long does it take for that drought to, how many days in a row of 100 degrees before you start to say, all right, now we're in danger of wildfires and the other things that come from this?
Of course, it depends on what's happened previously. So in southwest Oklahoma, with this extreme heat, with their dryness that they've had, we're already seeing red flag fire danger. So extreme fire danger down in southwest Oklahoma even today, and that will continue until they get rainfall. It generally doesn't take very long in this type of heat to see that damage occur. Wildfire danger starts to erupt when the vegetation starts to wilt and go dormant or even die. So those type of things in this type of heat doesn't take it won't take but a week or two.
Okay. And Brett, let's talk here about school starting back up and sports are getting back active again. How important is it for coaches or students or people that are going to be playing these sports to pay attention to their body temperature? Because this heat, we've been referencing mostly adults. How does it impact, people who are early in their adulthood or child?
It is more affected on people in their childhood as well as the elderly population. They're a lot less resilient to the forces of the heat and what it does to your body. So I would say to be self-aware, if you're a coach or someone who's looking after adolescents, to be aware of those around you. Look out for those warning signs, and if in doubt, call 911. We're here to help. We're glad to assess and make sure that everyone's safe.
All right. And Gary, I got an odd question here for you. When was the last time Oklahoma had a cold summer? And come on, give me some hope here. Is there any chance that it's going to return?
I don't know that we've ever had an actual cold summer. I guess what we would consider a cold summer in Oklahoma would have been probably 1992.
Wow.
That was the following year after the Mount Pinatubo eruption, which sent all those particles up into the stratosphere, sort of gave us a cloud over the entire Earth, and that cooled us down. The cooling effect took about a year. And so we barely got above 100 in the state. Some places barely got to 90 degrees that summer. I wouldn't expect that to occur again unless we get a good volcano eruption somewhere. I don't think we want that either.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. That might cause for some more heat if it's too close. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Gary McManus and Brett Smith, thank you for your time and taking time to speak to Oklahomans about this topic.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.